round 4 of Thursday Nighter, 5-round tournament this month, and we are very lucky to have International Master Nubair back, commentating on the final 2 rounds. So welcome back, Nubair.
Thanks, buddy. Hello, everyone, guys.
We do have some pretty epic matchups tonight, especially we got Dane against Connor, so they definitely go back and forth, and both are pretty frequent tournament winners. And I did look at this game a tiny bit earlier, and it looks like Connor got Dane tanking hard on as soon as move 5. So let's see what's going on here. It looks like he went for a sideline.
And he went for like 2d4, like not so popular line, but an interesting one to fight, to play an imbalanced game. And it looks like Kuno was prepared as he was playing fast. But let's see how deeply he was prepared. So the idea is something like to go like this, or simply go knight c3 castle. Because many times if you play knight c3 first, then knight b4 could be a problem, and then maybe you have to give up a bishop, so bishop d2, keeping the option of knight e3 in case.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of center game myself, and I think there's another idea here too. With if you play knight c3, they have bishop b4 and some really critical lines with d5, and so if you play bishop d2, then if they, their prep might be bishop b4, and they hope you play knight c3 and transpose, but if they play bishop
And
d2,
yeah,
bishop b4, you can play a3, and force them to play bishop takes d2, and then they might be just kind of out of their usual prep. So I think he might be trying to dodge, not only playing the
may,
sideline, but then also trying to dodge,
exactly. Yeah.
the usual prep that someone would use against center game. Maybe they're really well prepped with knight c3, bishop b4, but they're not so well prepped against, like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah, got it. So knight c3, bishop b4, and maybe after castle the d5 is quite strong. Some problems, capture e4, so bishop d2, and here we can see the black is already quite comfortable. So for that reason, uh, bishop d2 was played first, so that the bishop doesn't go to the natural square or some threatening square. And yeah, then the bishop has to find some new way, new path, and that's why g6 was played in the game. This allows white to make a development. Castle on castle, and we have opposite side castling, which means very soon we will witness fire on the board.
Yep. What do you think about the decision to play g6 when white's already kind of forecasting they're gonna castle
Uh,
queenside? So you're asking for h4 h5 when you already know white's signaling that's what they want to do.
yeah, that's like added king safety. You put some pressure here. We know that. I mean, at some point you're gonna launch some attack here, so maybe that could be helpful. But in general, like the amount of move white has vested, even it's possible to consider uh, bishop b4 or even here. I thought because it's a legit option. Like you still pin it, and irrespective of what, we can just get the same position or similar position. And even if white captures, I don't think it's a big deal. Like the
Yeah, I
black is
think
absolutely fine.
there I would go for a3. Just force them to play bishop takes d2, knight
Bishop
takes.
b4, yeah, a3, bishop d2, and knight d2, and like this, I think it's more safer for black because g6 will lead to eventual h4 h5 attacks at some point later in the game. And one more thing I wanted to tell is even something like this would have been nice. The idea is simply to go d5, as you said. Like this is one of the strongest possibilities for black. And even for example, knight c3, d5, e5 is never a possibility because knight g4 attacks makes a double attack, and you will drop the pawn. So here there is no good option for white but to take. And after takes, black is absolutely fine. Like he can just play any of this moves, castle, or if he wants, even long castle sometimes. White has been prevented from castling long, the a2 hangs. So it's gonna take some time for white to improve his pieces as well. And okay, it's more or less equal game with black maybe being slightly ahead in the opening or development, let's put it like this.
Yeah, I like that line.
Uh,
I think going bishop b7 d5 is a really practical way to play. If you're not well prepped, you're going to get a good position playing like that, or at least equal. And then if you really want to
yeah,
book up, you can go for stuff like bishop b4, and then you can really try to play for the advantage with black even. So center game is a bit dubious, of course, but it does. Yeah, the nice advantage of center game though is the whole point of it is you don't touch any of your pieces on the king side, so you're ready to pawn storm every game. And so if black plays a little bit weird and moves like does stuff like lets their minor pieces get hit with tempos from the pawn storm, then it can really get dangerous sometimes.
Definitely, that DeFi straightforward approach would have been better. But then had some interesting ideas of transferring knight to e5, attacking the bishop. But I don't know how he's going to deal f4 in future. So let's see. Bishop d5, knight a5. He has got really strange ideas for f4. He wants to go to c4 and get somehow he wants bishop. Knight f3. And in my opinion, maybe he could have gone for this anyways, because if you play so many moves just to capture a knight which has got developed in a like a move ago, then it's not so great. Like, or maybe just simply d6 or something like queen e7. In future, you are aiming for queen b4 idea at some point. Would have been possible, but I believe bishop g5 was a problem here, and that is why knight f3 was played in the game. Little bit surprised with g f3. Queen f3 would have been simpler approach with h4, h5, and if h5 then g4. This is a weak, but maybe c6 and the bishop is going to capture it soon, and hence he played g f3. But I don't know how it does it improve his control over f7.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised by knight f3 even in the first place because I feel like you want to throw those pawns. That's the whole point. That's the whole theme of the opening. So and you're getting f4 with tempo. So I don't know. It seems a bit like I want to preserve my f4 resource. Maybe just play knight e2.
Exactly, exactly. Uh, Maybe f4, knight c4. He was not so happy here, and again c6 is coming anyways, and now this could be a serious threat as the b2 pawn is weak.
Yeah,
D2 bishop is hanging. So maybe the best move here for white here is just to get bishop out and put an attack on the queen, or just to put bishop on f4 so that he can never play knight c4. We have got some threats here. He could still play queen e7, knight f3, and still it's not so great, but at least you're putting some pressure, forcing him to capture, and there's one small tactic here, bishop d6. Unfortunately, that is not so great because you are losing a second piece. So maybe gf3, but then this allows bishop takes c3, bc3, queen a3 check, king b1.
that
And the
looks.
idea is after c6, you want to play bishop d6.
So
And
you want to stick to
or
b1, not d2. I'd be tempted to. I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna get mated over here. So
it looks scary, but honestly speaking, it's quite safe. If anyone is in risk, I think it's black because the dark squares are very, very big. f6 is not possible to play. And right now, this is being threatened. You cannot play c6, bishop d6 is there. And if you just play d6, then you lose access to c6 in future anyways. And worst case, you can play this and like it looks definitely bad with the king like this, but the amount of structure he has got, I think king is more safer in the center.
yeah, yeah. I like king d2, but I was thinking king b1. I would get mated. But
Okay, king b1, yeah,
but
possible,
but maybe
quite
not. It's
possible.
still
If not,
it's still kind of safe. I mean, I guess you can drop the bishop back still.
yeah, I think once the bishop is gone, white is out of danger. But in the game, okay, he just went for this, and okay, I don't know if this buys something.
Yeah, yeah. To
Uh,
me, it's turning into like a Dragon Sicilian, but the problem is, black doesn't have the c file to work with, so there's no rook takes c3s. There's no usual ideas like that. So it's like, what are they gonna do? Their attack, of course, is gonna be slower. I feel like they have to play. You have to break in the center, but I don't know.
And the problem of the bishop is a bit serious. For example, you try to break up with d5 and sacrifice a pawn. Uh, then you can do that, but there's a bishop g5 coming in, attacking the queen, and the next move white can capture with the rook or the knight, and then again, like it's not so clear. You can play queen f5, for instance, and for rook d5, there's a queen a1 and knight b1, then the b2 hangs, and if king goes up, the rook hangs. And knight d5, simply we have got check and this move, and this is definitely not so great for white. So something like this was necessary because when you have got two bishops, I mean, you need to open the position to get most of the bishop pair. Otherwise, if the bishop remains like this, and if you just try to make some moves like this, white will get some counterplay from the h file. as I said. Now the 4f5 is a plan, and we have got a potential weakness there to attack.
So if we just a quick question here, if we compare this to having like a pawn on g2 and a queen on f3, would that be a lot easier to break things open with f3 g4, or compared to now f4 f5 still looks pretty good to me? I mean,
Yeah, because black helped with the h5 idea, and mainly after queen f3, I mean, you can just play g4 directly because in all the position the bishop is not coming out yet, and after also queen f3 strengthens the d5. It makes d5 almost impossible because we just capture directly. So, but
yeah,
okay, everything has some pros and cons. Then you can black can play d6 and you do have less pressure. But in general, like if you ask me from a long point of view, keeping a posture like this is not good because if you fail to checkmate anyway, like for sure you're gonna lose in the end game because of the pawn structure.
got
So
it. Yeah,
that way,
not
yeah,
thinking long. Yeah, I guess when you have opposite side attacks, I guess people usually aren't quite thinking for the end game yet. They think I'm gonna mate you, you're gonna mate me, we're gonna throw pieces at each other, but it still can turn into end games. So you still got to keep that in the back of your mind.
yeah, and taking with g3 maybe makes more sense when the pawn is on g7, so that you can maximize them and you utilize the file, and you have got target. But with g6 and all, when the structure formation is like this, we call it a triangle setup. So when it's a triangle setup, there's only one way to attack the front pawn. That is either to play f5 or to play h5. So you really need to like make invest two more moves to attack that pawn. And even after that, if the triangle is like this, you capture, and then again you have to push the other pawn. So it is like five move process, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you capture also. So it's like it takes a lot of time. So when the pawn structure is like this, better to just start h4 h5 and see if you can make most of it or takes and make use the f5 h file somehow. Because here
Yeah,
black has like wasted some moves, so white gets time and he got enough five break.
I do want
And
to
now he,
criticize Connor a tiny bit. Look at that time usage. There's no way that he's calculating as much as maybe he's thinking on Dane's time, but he's not in prep. Got to be starting to think a little bit at this point.
yeah, he was. We don't know how much he was the prep, but for sure he kept on putting the pressure
I mean,
on Dan.
his position looks good though, so I guess I'm criticizing for not a great reason, but I feel like it's a classical game. You got to use some time.
Exactly. I think we can criticize because it's a classical game and there's no need to play this fast. I thought what's the point of playing classical chess?
But Dane's got to be feeling the pressure.
Yeah, sure, yeah. But I mean, at least here you can think, for example, okay, you play h4 fast, no problem. You play f4 fast, okay. But once we have got options here to play e5, f5, or at least once your opponent plays a4, maybe we never know. This is the best move. 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 We have got four captures here. So maybe he could have thought for 5 minutes, but he just spent 3 minutes and decided to go for attack. And and yeah, maybe he's not bad doing bad. He's taking 2 3 minutes before every capture.
Yeah, he is a calculator, so he's not just totally playing off intuition, but
But look how
he
many counter play and attacks he's allowing. Like he's allowing this, he's allowing rook here check.
yeah, he could definitely. He's not. You know, I know he can play very well blindfold too, so I don't think he's using the full his full calculation powers to their potential. And
And look, this
Dane's a pretty good calculator too, but Dane is kind of, I would say, a good mix. He's positional and can still calculate versus Connor is just really really good at calculating.
yeah,
So
yeah, his moves have been more positional. And maybe his position is not so great, but I still like black because at least black pieces are like they're active. I mean, not that great, but I like blacks for some reason because the way all this happened and the structure White have got, it's really a big fan of this. But maybe this could be anyone's game. Bishop somehow he just needs to get queen h5, and if once the queen h5 comes, it will be a checkmate. I don't know why he's not doing that plan. Maybe this is the right time. So let's calculate. Queen f3, b takes u3, queen takes h5. The only way to defend the mate is probably rook e8. Because rook f6 is not so great in my opinion. You have got this and bishop h6. So let's go. Queen f3, capture, capture, rook e8. And typical idea is to just do this, and the threat is queen f7 mate. And if black cannot generate something here, it will be a game over. So rook e2, king d3, queen d5, king e2, bishop a6 check, king e1. Maybe black has something here. And also king d3, there's a bishop a6. And that is the reason I was liking black, because one wrong move, I mean one check and it's game over suddenly. But maybe we have a tricky king c1 here. This allows this check, but that also gives black a check. So the point is, after cb2, simply king b1, and the king is out of checks. And now this is also a threat, checkmate threat. This is also a checkmate threat. One can try playing queen f6, but the problem is queen h8, king here, and bishop takes g7. Now the queen has no good squares, but to take on g6. This is lost after f4, so something like this. And as I said, it could be anyone's game. Like right now, it looks like white, but I could be wrong as well. Or there could be just a perpetual like this. And a draw. But okay, we have got bishop u5, and it's white's game, and then. So anything like this could be possible. Yesterday, I mean a day before, and that was still before the rest day, there was a game of Abdul Satra. I was watching that against Van Forest, and it has some crazy lines like this. Like it could be anyone's game. And so it is very much similar to like this. We have got a crazy position. And if he plays queen f3, and he's thinking for quite long, I guess now. He played knight e2, okay. But queen f3, I think is an interesting option here.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
there's a queen h4.
Notabek is
h1 and
known as the big fighter, so
yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear that he had a crazy game. I feel like he's just like, oh, if you're under 2750, you're just gonna give me your points. Sorry.
Yeah. And no doubt he's the leader of the tournament, because he's just playing not only a fantastic chess, but also crazy chess. Because nowadays, to win with black pieces, you need to be really crazy to find some crazy lines and have very good calculation. And here, I think it's great to see both the players are backing their calculation. And I think Kono did a very good thing here. He spent some time, won some time, and decided to go knight e2 instead of queen f3, because queen f3 was leading to queen h4, and the lines are not clear after this, as there's a queen g4 coming in. And if the queens get traded, it's going to be black's game. So knight e2 was played, and now black has some options like this. Also, maybe some b3 at some point. Rook e8 could also be an option. And maybe even this is also a serious option, because there's a serious weakness out there. I don't know, somehow I still like black.
Yeah, it seems like. Can you try to trade out bishop g7? What about? That seems to be
Bishop,
the big
you want this?
Yeah. Is there any chance there? I don't know when, but it seems like bishop g7's the big piece holding things together for black.
Yeah, this guy is a big guy. This is going to snipe everywhere. And yes, if bishop e5 comes, then okay, I'll be on the white side. But it also has one drawback, like you capture, and there's a rook e8 coming now. And the e2 hangs. Okay, he goes for bishop a6, straightforward approach. And the idea is, if knight d4, just take with the queen.
Yeah, it's too bad that the knight hangs with check, because otherwise you could think about queen takes f5 and mate him with queen f7, queen h7, but check is unfortunately gotta move your king.
Maybe could have started with this, but because now this is an option. I don't know how great it is, but it's an option because it attacks the queen. And the point is, after queen f6, we can just simply play knight d4. And surprisingly, everything is defended. And we also got this check at points to give some threats. So
Those infamous third rank diagonals. Just get him with the surprise queen a3, b3, or h3.
maybe queen e8 or something. Look at this. Queen e8 looks little weird, but makes sense. So knight d4 say, and bishop d4. We can give this check. Maybe it's just equal, but I don't like in general giving the bishop.
Yeah. He's like, that's the. You only want to give that dark square bishop if you have lethal tactics.
That's why I wanted to start with rook e8 or queen f6 ideas. Honestly speaking, rook e8, because the rook is not doing anything. The queen could be useful in some other lines, but for sure the rook is not doing anything. So something like rook e8 would have been better for sure. And as I said, knight d4 simply we had 25. So this would have been
So,
definitely the winning.
do you think are both sides still playing for a win here? Like, who should be? If you're either
E-
side, or is either side playing for a draw at this point, or happy with the draw, or are they both?
no, I think both sides are still playing for one, and that's
Yeah,
the beauty of chess and both the players. And also probably that's why we are seeing this game first because it's crazy game and both are ambitious.
yeah,
So it's nice to see.
yep. These guys are both ambitious every week. Yeah, if we get time, we probably won't get time, but you should check out the round between Dane and Miles from last week. It was a totally crazy game. So Dane always
Hmm.
put Dane always putting together crazy games. Yeah, he actually saved that one with a stalemate trick. Sacked his
Well,
queen. He sacked his queen, and or he won a full rook with a queen check because if he played queen takes queen, it would have been stalemate. So it was a big comeback. Or I mean, it was big back and forth. But Miles is a big fighter too. So yeah, we got a lot of fighters in the club. I was one of the pacifists when I was playing a lot, but I was trying to play safe and solid. But that definitely doesn't apply to Dane or Connor.
that's great to know. And it's important to fight like until the very end. And and again, Connor is taking his time. It's important position. I believe he will end up playing this only if I'm not blundering something. And followed by 94. As I don't think he have any other good move to make. So shall we go to the next one?
Sure.
So we have got poor Nathan playing against Edward
These
on
guys are
board
also,
number two.
these guys are on camera as well. So these are the two boards on camera.
Mhm.
And these guys
It was against, yeah.
have played each other many games. I bet you they played each other 50 games.
Wow. And they're still playing the classical openings like Nemzwandian.
Yeah, they both change it up all the time, and they both play pretty main lines fairly often. So, and they both know their openings well. So, they're. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be surprised if either one of them got beat out of the opening.
This is like total classical stuff, total classical Nemzwandian stuff. Okay, this I'm not a big fan of this. Okay, what is the threat here? You can just play king f2 or castle, like so that you can make your natural capture. Because this is usually good for white, like this attacking system. Even rook a2 is possible in this. The knight could go like this, and the rook would come like this. It
So,
fits so well.
what was the fourth? I play names on myself, but I'm not. What was the fourth move here?
Fourth move here was just normal e3, but later it got transposed instead of playing d5 or castle, black played c5, and so from no out of nowhere it got transposed into the Samish variation.
Got it.
And okay, like it's a normal position, like black is absolutely fine. But then he played queen a5, which is not so great choice, I believe. And maybe just castling is something would have been better here. Instead he went bishop d2. And now again, like he needs to improve the queen because queen was anyway not doing much. This gives white time to improve his pieces. Okay, he's a bit worried or maybe didn't want to allow any counterplay, so he went queen b1 first. Honestly speaking, just castle and starting e4 f4 breaks would have been better, as he already have got one more tempo.
Yeah, I feel like
But
Nimza Nimza players all have the same plan in the back of their mind. They're gonna play f3 e4. So I mean, not always, I guess, but that's their default plan. That's their comfort zone. So I think try to make that plan not totally ideal is somewhat decent. I read a book by Lisich on the Nimzo, and I'm not gonna claim to understand why, but I know he said there in 4e3 he doesn't like to play c5 until white's committed to knight f3. So he wants to play like
Mhm.
d5 first.
Yes,
I don't know all
exactly.
the exact reasons for that, but yeah,
Yes, because you need to be more flexible with the black, and always c5 is not so good, but because after c5 you're not really threatening to take here because the posture is really good, and also even if you play c4 you don't really buy much, and and you are very far away from getting b4 because of the bishop pairs, and it's like really hard work. So many times you need to get the knight like this, and sometime to a4, sometime to b3. One of the classical games or the model games from in Nimzo, and this setup is played by none other than former world champion Magnus against Visyanand in their very first world championship match, which decided the title, like their last game, or let's say Anand's last white game, where he tried to win with the attack on like this setup and trying to attack his king, and finally could not checkmate Magnus. And Magnus was very, I mean, of course, accurate to get knight a4, knight b3, and enter the queen side, and also successfully defend by keeping one knight there. So that is one of the model games from black side, I would say. And I think from white side, we are witnessing a game with some new ideas. H4, H5, and yeah, if you can hit on G6, it works well. But E4 here, not really sure. It's better not to mix up all this. Maybe simply Queen H2 and Queen G1, Queen H2 is great here because there is no difference here.
yeah, it's
For
like
example, you capture, and if he captures, just go like this.
yeah, they say when your opponent's attacking on the flank, break in the center, but so this is a nice flank attack because the center's already locked down. Black doesn't have any pawn breaks, but now white's kind of making the break for them, opening lines in the center, which is kind of here's the antidote to your flank attack for you, maybe, but
So yeah, yeah, very sure, very true. And for H6, also it was possible. I mean, black must play F6 because he needs to defend the H file, and this gives some concession in the pawn structure. And now maybe white can think about E4, but not immediately, as I mean, king is not in trouble, but he needs king would be better on G2 or something. There's a rook D6 coming, and the pieces might be coming in. So maybe something like this is also possible to could have been possible to play with bishop f4 coming, and as there is no rook in the f file, later king g2, and here I think white still looks under control, but playing if maybe e4 is also fine, but the fact that he is allowing rook b2 I don't like. It gives some counterplay. Queen c1 was better option, I believe.
okay. So what about him not playing rook b2? Also want to criticize that or
Maybe he just thought rook b2 anyways, he's gonna play rook b1. So let's say rook b2, rook b1, but this allows like something like queen b6, and black could just trade off queens and claim to be not really fine, but avoiding the checkmate for sure. Or something like rook a1, a2 was also possible here, attacking the pawn, and you can do something like this. Basically, this avoids momentum going forward in the game with the rook b2. It's not so serious threat, but it is something which annoys white or disrupts white's attack on the king side. So for that reason, I think this could have been
so
played.
let's just for one question. So if we did get rook b2, rook b1, queen b6, queen c1, and then let's say black just decided to trade everything, or let's just say yeah he agreed to the queen trade. What does this end game look like? I mean,
Uh,
I feel like the
Definitely that.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the end game is better for white. I mean, we have got center control, we have got space advantage, we have got two bishops for white. So more or less very good if end game or chances for white, as I can see for rook b8, we simply have bishop b f4 coming in and the material is dropping already. But okay, he has to defend very passively or quietly, try to hold this. There's a rook b5 coming in, then you have to again play rook d7 and try to survive this position if you could. Even moves like this are possible, and probably eventually it will just fall and white will win this. But for example, if you like to checkmate your opponent and you had opportunity to checkmate, then you don't have to play a long game or show technique in the end game to convert. I'm not sure, like after rook b1, there's a queen b6. He can also maybe play rook e2 and uh, something. So this definitely gives black some additional possibilities or chances to create counterplay or to survive with queen b. Not really survive, but let's say to delay the loss in long run.
And then
Because improve your rook, maybe you should also go to the seventh rank.
one more question: that knight f8 looks kind of dead to me, or is that still a pretty useful piece because g6 is under pressure?
Uh, it's dead. It's not doing much, but it's doing the defensive part. And I think it makes sense to keep one piece near your king, especially knight. It could be f8, f6, depends upon the pawn structure. So yeah, it's doing some job. We cannot see it right now because let's say uh, there's no pressure on the h7. But in general, many times the queens comes or the rooks get doubled, and we need some protection for the h7. And the knight is doing. So I think the knight is fine, uh, but the other pieces needs to find some job. Like the knight cannot be improved further. He's just hoping that if white captures, then the knight will be improved or bishop will be improved. So other pieces are struggling. And imagine if he could have played queen c1, knight e7. That would have been terrible because then the bishop would also enter. So still things are not gone that bad for black as white is also not playing so accurate. No doubt white is clearly better. This I'm not sure because now this makes the bishop bad and f5 is a little bit difficult to achieve after rook b6. And now even after queen c1, there's no bishop f4. So he's going 21 now. I'll just change to the next board if he doesn't play rook b2 here.
Yeah, gotta take the chance when you got it. Okay, but Nathan's actually got, yeah. Okay, Eddie's getting into his usual time trouble. It's here's an interesting. We should back up a little bit in this game and see when Eddie used all his time, because a lot of times he'll use like 25 minutes on some like rook c1 or nothing to calculate. But but then he gets down to increment and he just plays great. So he's used to it. But it looks like gonna be one of those games for Eddie.
One thing is for sure, in such positions, white needs time because it is close, but white really needs time here to make a plan or to how to break out this. It's not so easy. Black has got really a strong defenders. His plan is to play f5, but I don't see it's happening after rook b2 anytime soon.
Yep, I think I just saw
And
queen
even queen
d7. Yep,
d7,
he makes
even like moves like this are quite good.
All right, so he's not wanting to commit to rook b2, even though it's rooks belong on the seventh. You got two bishops there, king, but he is wanting to keep it flexible on the light squares. Maybe you can still play rook b2, queen b5 in certain circumstances.
And the other problem for white is that because of the bishop is not being active or it's being a bad bishop, white is having these difficulties now in the game. Uh, I can only see this way to improve the bishop. But again, a4 allows rook b2, bishop c1, rook a2 ideas. So I'm gonna put my money on black here. Though white's looks position looks promising, some attacking, but what I could see from here is that space advantage is turning into disadvantage because this is gonna backfire. The king in the middle. The moment this comes, white will realize how bad his position is.
And the h file is not a problem.
No, because after this, we are always taking with the f pawn. As long as you're taking with the f pawn, everything is good. If you take with h, you might lose in 2 3 moves because uh, these squares are important. almost impossible to defend. And yeah, I mean, no one would take with the knight because queen h5 comes. So queen f3 allows bishop g4, allows knight f5, allows rook b2.
So the main,
I mean, if not now, then when? Come on.
so then just for our viewers' sake, the main idea of f takes is, yeah, if you play knight takes, you're basically conceding huge squares f5 and h5, especially queen h5, and so then if you play h takes, you're cutting your queen out of the defense by the f pawn. But if you play f takes, now you've got a nice queen that can kind of x-ray over to h7, or really just all your queenside pieces can stay connected to the defense. So that makes some sense. But not certain I would have played it so intuitively myself. But I like your explanation.
Also, now he can simply go bishop g4, and once the queen moves anywhere, we have got rook b2, which will force white to play rook c1. And then simply knight f5 is also a very good option, as there's a pin here. It will trade pieces, and even then the knight on f8 will start talking. It will come to e6, and I can see this is going in the wrong way for white already after queen f3. And we have got rook b2, and we have got rook b2 on the board. So now let's move to the next one. We have Norman Mairin playing against Agam Ronen.
So he likes his. Yep, he's gonna play either f4, or sometimes he doesn't always play f4. Sometimes he plays. Oh, here we go, Stonewall.
Yeah, he likes Stonewall setups, right?
Yep. Or he likes his pawns on the dark squares. Sometimes he'll play call A.
This is very, very bad. Like you played this, it's already bad. But if you play this,
You
it
trade.
make it worse.
You're trading off your one good bishop, so you're making sure you only have a bad one left.
It's like you had only one good thing in your life, and that also ends after bishop c2, or like this was your only lifeline, and you are just offering it like you can play knight f3, castle, anything, even anything, any move like on anything you can play here, knight f3, even bishop d2, bishop e1, bishop h4, anything you could play on the earth, but not bishop c2, because this is the only good piece and white has got, and then you play bishop c2. Here also black can start with knight e4 and it's gone. f5 is coming, queen h4 is coming. It's just game over.
Yeah, sometimes I like trading those bishops off if I have e5 in, and maybe I'm getting an e6 pawn stack in. But yeah, usually get the e6 pawn stack in first before trading the bishops off, though. So yeah, totally different position, anyways. But it kind of reminds me of a Caro. Yeah, I guess. Yep. Ronan plays the Caro as well, so not surprising me he's going for a Caro-like structure.
And yeah, yes, black did not play so accurate, which gave whites so many chances. He took early, he then allowed f5, which made whites come back in the game. But still, the weaknesses exist, and I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like he wasted like three moves to improve white's rook from f1 to e1 and queen to f5, apart from including the pawn structure and making it isolated. So lots of mistakes. Is this game
Yeah, no, this is
from
Premiere. Um,
not Premier, right?
this is Premiere. So this is board
This is
3.
Premier.
Yep.
Okay.
And we got a smaller Premiere section this month.
Oh,
So I think the first four boards are Premiere, and then the last three will be open. But
all right.
the open section is actually a lot larger. They're just not on DGT boards.
I see. Okay. So queen g6, bishop h4, rook b4. Some tactics here. Queen g6, knight f3,
Well,
b4 again.
do you think, was there any? I always, whenever people are getting involved in heavy tactics like that, it makes me wonder if there's some sort of shots. Do you think there was
Yeah, no
any?
direct shot as in I have not spotted yet. I'm just trying to understand both
No,
what both the players are trying to do.
it
I'm not
was
able to guess any of their moves.
yeah. That's well. That always puts you in an uncomfortable position as a chess player. You know, you like
Like we
it.
go
It
bishop d8, there's a knight e6, then what the bishop is doing here. And then again, like have seen this many times? The rook is going here, again coming back. He's going there, again coming back. Knight going to g4, again coming back. So, and now again the bishop will come back because there's just no option. Maybe there's one, but it makes no sense, I believe. Because rook e8 check, there's a bishop f8. So I think he has to come back to h4, and then there's knight f4 coming in, which is like game over because it threatens rook g2, knight g3, and knight h3. How do you defend that? You can defend some things with bishop g3, but then still knight g3 would be a decisive threat. I think this is going to be game over because of bishop d8. Otherwise,
yeah.
white was doing okay.
And Ronan's got a couple 100 points on Norm. I think Norm's
Uh-huh.
around 1700, 1750, and Ronan's around 1950.
Looks like Norman has realized that NF4 is quite strong, and that's what he's thinking here to create something with queen f3 or any other idea. Because if you save the bishop, the knight is going to come here and hit everywhere. So today we are going to witness all black wins or what? In the premier section, we saw here black doing well, but okay, it's again unclear a bit. We saw here also black doing well. We have bishop g4 on the board, rook b2, maybe knight f5 is going to come next, queen h1. And again, we saw now black winning. I mean, black is better with knight f4 coming in.
Yeah, at least 7 different stories. I mean, this one, he really could have punished him positionally from the opening, beginning to end, but it got a little hectic for a moment. But then, yeah, the Nimzo game, for example, between Eddie and Nathan, like Eddie was actually better or looking better for a while, and just kind of starting to misplay the ending. So kind of
Exactly.
self-inflicted wounds on that one. Um, and I guess board one is yeah, I'm not sure what was the whole narrative of that game. Was that back and forth at all,
This one,
or yeah, was that back and forth at all one-sided for black?
yeah, and now it's very just a few updates because this is so interesting game. Like we left it around here, bishop a6. And I thought he would go for this idea, but instead he went for queen to b3, threatening d6 check, winning the queen. Interesting idea, I believe. But I believe there was also queen e8 here, just winning on the spot. But instead he went for c5. Maybe queen e8 is not that great because this allows this. And after king h8, but knight d4, I thought of queen e4. Maybe knight g3 is fine. Queen c6 can be one. I still like black somehow because black is in time to capture everything.
What about
Maybe the point is rook d6 here. But okay, there's a rook f6 and rook here. And is it a draw? Because bishop f6, there's a bishop e5. Maybe.
well, what happens if instead of queen e8 you play just king h8 to start? Does that matter at all? Because I always like to play my necessary move.
Yeah, maybe he'll capture the even.
Now I just have more options. I feel like I was gonna have to play king h8 anyways.
Yes.
I could still play queen e8 here with transpose.
Yeah, queen e8. Well, yeah, it will just transpose. Probably you are right. Uh, but white has got, I think, enough. Something like it looks like black is doing well. I mean, winning maybe, but suddenly after this, there's a rook d6 coming in, and if you don't capture this, then there's h5 is hanging. And after bishop e2, knight g7, some crazy line starts. So for that reason, he played c5. D6 king h8. But now this pawn is a danger, could become a dangerous pawn later on. Queen f3, for instance. And now you cannot play queen h4 because there's a rook h1 on, but in just in time there's a bishop e2 as well. Wow. So like, Zagar is playing very brave, making complete use of his time.
Well, what
Knight
about
g3.
well, what about what about rook h1, bishop e2, and then just move the queen along the diagonal, maybe like queen b7 or something.
Yeah, but then the point is the bishop defends the pawn, so you can just
Got
happily
it.
go back or and move the queen anywhere, basically.
Got it.
So that's why knight g3, and now rook h1 is a very, very serious threat, and he could not find anything apart from queen g4 was an option here. Mhm. Maybe simpler, but then maybe he found something interesting with b3 check. The idea is if king b3, then the rook will invade. So he wants him to capture with the queen. And after queen p3, there's f4 hangs. And that's why king c1 was played. And now black is thinking maybe queen g4 again is an option, or we will see some other brilliancy. We never know.
Yeah, I feel like when you get a deep pass pawn like this, there's always a chance for brilliancies for white too. They could sack a queen somehow, and then have an unstoppable
Yeah, because
passer.
there's also a problem here, as you were saying. d7 is coming, and bishop f6, there's a bishop e5 and knight h5 ideas.
Yeah.
So not so clear. I mean, it could be anyone's game still.
Yeah, there's a whole chapter of a book I've been reading called Pawns on the Brink, and it's all these make me definitely appreciate the power of a pawn close to promotion.
Maybe this is the move, yeah, queen f6. But no, queen h5, king g8, queen h7 is just a mate. And that is why, I needed this rook on e8 and definitely not on f8, so that you have one escape square for the king. Now you cannot move your queen back because it's just a mate. You cannot play queen g4 because your opponent can capture and go d7. So what do you do here as black?
So that's a good defensive idea to remember. Bishop g7 is a epic defender, but only if you have f8 square to escape to.
Yeah. And it looks like he missed king c1 or something like king just coming back because he was backing on this rook b8 check. Now, maybe he'll try to walk out this one. Takes, and there's a queen f6 check. And now the king has no good squares. Like king b1. Maybe this is also possible. Looks
Well, also
the post,
but also
but then
what's the material like though? Can we even think about playing queen c3?
queen c3 also, yeah. Yeah, this also wins, yeah, simply. Back. So yeah, then I don't know then what for black here. Sometimes this is idea, but then there's no bishop at 6. And king g8 will lead into something like queen d5 also. But maybe he has to do this. And if queen d5 just here, and the lucky thing is after rook h1, queen f4 is a check. So rook h1 say. Also now you cannot play queen f6 because queen d5 loses after rook h5. Not sure then how exactly. Okay, bishop b7. Wow. What is? But okay, there's a queen b3. I think it's just going to be game over. Or bishop b7 directly. This is the savior move, I think. This is the one. Now it prevents bishop h1, so you must capture more or less. And you have got a check here. Rook d2, there's a bishop b2. But it's very, very crazy position, honestly speaking. Bishop b2, just play king b1, or even king d1, and you don't know who is winning actually. And bishop g7, we have got queen g7 as well. So
Crazy.
it's totally crazy position. But I don't think any of the move for black apart from bishop b7 as of now. Maybe if I invest more time, we'll find something. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd probably lose it on both sides. So,
We all will. We all will. It's okay. It's
all
just
right.
so crazy.
Should we jump to though to board four
Uh,
so we can make sure we get a good
yeah,
amount
we
of
complete
time
the
for the.
previous section first.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll come back. We'll come back to board one when they conclude.
sure. So it is Robert versus Basil, and we have some reverse bots opening here.
We got some crazy opening. So
And
Robert's usually the one going crazy, but it looks like Michael's going crazy to me playing Bishop takes B1 or G1. Or
so
maybe
there's no Queen H6 guys. There's Queen H4.
is this some theory though, or is there any precedent here? Or are these guys already
And
just
it's very ended here. After this, it could be anyone's game.
yeah? So he's going crazy. I feel like it's just so anti-positional though to play Bishop takes G1. You're spending two moves to take a piece they haven't never moved.
Wow. What? What? Okay, this is coming, so he's taking so much material. Oh gosh, come on. This is so crazy.
Wow, this is the
And okay, so what? Okay, I'll tell you what Robert did. Robert did all the calculation in maths that he's winning this, he's winning that, and all this. You can get this, but he's not understanding the fact that this pieces. There's no need to count these pieces because white can just maybe force a perpetual or give checks, and the knight is coming to b4. So though he's like a rook and bishop extra. I mean, okay, there's a rook. I mean, it's a two rook and bishop for a queen, but the fact is, it's going to take some time to include these pieces in the game. For instance, he has got queen h4 check, and we will see what I'm talking. Like he can just play queen g4, queen h5, and just bring the knight. Or maybe first knight b4 was even more stronger because king f1 will just lead to just checkmate. So
so
if knight b4, it was game over.
So if you're black, you want to just make sure you always got perpetual in your pocket, and then still play for a win, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the least, and maybe that's why it's not good idea to maybe to get this because the rook is anyway bad. And okay, if black takes this, okay, then you take. But at least you get a move here. For example, if you play a3, you don't lose immediately. Or if you play d4, you have got some threats, and you can just sacrifice a pawn, and it's okay, I believe. But if you play bishop d7, it's like a suicide here. And because knight b4 is just losing on the spot, like you cannot defend the c2 pawn itself. There's just no way. Maybe something like rook b1, and you laugh. After this, there's a forced checkmate. I mean, it could be. I mean, you can't play d3 or d4, and doesn't look good. Like so. But okay, in the game, he went for queen h4 check and just capture. Again, knight b4 was, I think, strong. He did play that in the end. And wait, don't tell me now. It's suddenly white who's checkmating. Okay, here. Okay, they're not checkmating. Oh, wow. He could have taken here because I don't.
Yeah, why can't he go to
Yeah.
C6?
Ah, but d5. Yeah, he can go. But there's no mate, I believe. He can just run like this.
Yeah, and I mean,
And if you play
if he
d5
plays,
first,
can he just play C6? Yeah, just escape that way.
yeah. But surprisingly, he did not take the rook and he went for queen g2 and just the bishop. Because anyway, the queen is gonna take everything. So,
Oh, Robert always finds a way to make it crazy. He didn't disappoint
so
this
I
week.
think it's going to be and look, he played so fast, like 1 or 20 minutes on the clock. So this strategy finally got backfired very badly, I would say.
Always, it happens fairly often to Robert, to be honest. So he's used to it. He goes for these
And
crazy
wait a second,
ideas,
where
and
did he lose all his time? Sorry to interrupt, but
I've
look, he had 1 hour 20 minutes, and did you take like an hour 10 minutes for this move?
yeah, no, this is there's a handful of players like this, and Robert's definitely on that list. But sometimes I have seen him using this time now and then, because for a while he was playing like this every single game. Um, but you know, he, I'd say Robert, he's got great visualization, great. Yeah, he's 2187 peak for a reason. He's got endgame skills. He's got all the skills, but he just kind of almost is playing like blitz. He gets his plan
Hmm.
and he's gonna do his plan no matter what his opponent is doing. Doesn't really react to the opponent that much, from what I can tell. And always wants to sacrifice, always wants to attack, but always wants to throw pawns too, which are kind of slow. So, but yeah, I'm surprised he didn't actually get a nice attack out of this game, considering Michael played bishop c5, bishop takes g1, because that's given him a lot of time to do his thing. But
I think he had difficulties because Michael also did unlimited sacrifices.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it was all about sacrifice, 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 and he could not keep the right count. Or maybe when he started counting, he forgot about the king's play.
yeah.
So,
Yes, and
and
he
this is
does
that's
neglect his own king
somewhere here,
safety. So hit your
and
king, but
and he did very fast. Like he had so much time. I could see like 1 or 20 minutes until here. And but I'm really curious to know, like, did he really take 70 minutes for this move? I've not seen anyone taking 70 minutes for any move. Like 45, 50, 55, I've seen. But if he has made took 70 minutes for a move, I think it's another record.
yeah, what that makes no sense. Come on, that's gotta be GGT error.
Could be.
Yeah, because he wouldn't. Come on, especially if it's a lost position, he wouldn't spend that much time doing that.
Okay, let's go to the last live board where Kevin is down to 2 minutes and 45 seconds, hoping to survive this end game, which is very, very difficult. Down a pawn, down an exchange. Let's see what happened from the beginning. It was an English opening versus King's Indian, which got converted into pure King's Indian and the exchange variation of Kate.
Okay.
Okay, this is all theory. Here they play 95, and the lines goes like takes, and there are two moves here. And again, white can play bishop c4. There's a b5, there's a takes, there's a knight d7, and so on. Roughly, it's equal. But instead, white played rook d1, which allows, I think, c6 and knight d7 ideas.
So it's is
Bishop
exchange is it's
b4.
pretty much just like zeros non-ambitious. Is that the
Yeah, yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's 0-0. An ambitious line. Well, one of the, I mean, worst lines to play as white. Because, like, in King's Indian, you play any line, you will at least get plus equal zero point 0.4, zero point 0.5. Any line, I mean. And if you play it correctly, you will get plus minus 0.7, zero point 0.8 in like at least 3 to 4 lines. So, and if you play this, uh, then it's really, really bad.
Yeah, I think a lot of
And if you
players have the
compare to
mindset
play
there's
this,
I just want to get out of the opening without losing. You know, just want to get all my pieces developed, and I don't want to fall into any of my opponent's tricks or traps. So they end up playing stuff like this. But I think it does kind of, yeah, cripple you a little bit, because even if you play the more ambitious variations and you fall into some traps, you're probably only going to fall into the trap once, and yeah, that sucks. But
I understand this psychology and this point of view completely. But then what my point of view is like, for example, when you're already playing this much theory, or when you say A, you must say B. Like, okay, you don't know theory, fine. Just make a castle, just develop the bishop anywhere, or just make normal moves. I mean, do not push or take concrete decisions. Just make normal moves or natural developing moves is what you should. But if you play this and then you are taking this, it's really bad. If you don't want to get into opening strategy, then I would recommend playing something like London or 1b3, or like the Nakamura plays like knight f3 and b3, like this, something like this. So just play. I mean, he knows everything, but when he doesn't want to play theory, he just like playing like that. So you can play something like that if you don't want to play theory, or something like Polish system or something. Not so active, but okay, you know what you are doing. But if you play like, for example, Slav defense and then you play CD5, or if you play King's Indian, then you capture like DE5, or the French exchange, like another worst example. If you play French and then you just capture like this, then it's not a great. Like if you want to dodge a line, then just do it E4, E6 and play Queen E2 like Alekhine and say no to theory. So like there are better options to like dodge theory, or to duck from the theory, not playing theory. But please don't do this because this is not good.
Yeah, I feel like if you want to dodge theory's white too, you can always play g3, bishop g2 against pretty much any structure.
Exactly. That's what, yeah.
And that's a good way, you still probably have your plus point four somehow. But
Yeah, if you want to dodge a thread, you can't dodge it completely. Like, don't go into all this main lines and center control and stuff and concepts and principles. Just play like the Robert plays, I would say.
well, these guys play every month, so they might have some history too. Um, Maybe they got into a theory battle in the past or something. So
Yeah. Or if you want to force out a draw from white, I mean, it's okay. You can just do it. Then just play exchange pieces and make a draw. Like, because I don't think after d5 white is any more ambitious to play this game forward. So just you can play 95 trade pieces and like make a draw. Like if you just don't want to, like after this, it's very hard to lose as white because you've got active pieces. He's gonna take, and white has got no weaknesses. I won't say white has any advantage either, but it's very hard to lose as white or even as a black. Like it's so solid position. So you can just play 95 and takes, and now the knight will come to d4, and it will be an interesting game, I believe, very soon. Oh, oh, tactical miss.
yeah, okay. I like to let's
And he
quick
gave the full rook.
well let's quickly look at how much time he spent on rook e6 because I feel like this people are gonna blunder, but this is where you can
Yeah, 1 minute.
exactly you're not blunder checking properly
King
because
g7 was the best move, I believe.
I blunder all the time, but then I get paranoid about it and I start blunder checking, which blunder check is just lock in your move in your head before you play it, check all your opponent's checks, captures as response to your move, just as a separate check, completely separate from your initial thought process. And then, yeah, if you're like, okay, I'm gonna play rook e6, what's he gonna do? You probably see knight c7, and he probably saw it. I wouldn't be surprised if he saw it after he made the move himself and is just staring at the move while white thinks. But yeah, it happens to all of us. But just build those blunder checks into your game, and you probably will gain some rating for sure.
Yeah. What I would say about blundering is like blundering is okay. It could happen to us, everyone at some point. But having 1 hour on the clock, seeing it is fork already, and you're blundering to another fork is not something I think is acceptable even for club players because like you see it, there's a threat here and okay, and what you're doing is you're giving a full rock next. So this is a bit hard to explain. And
What
then after this, okay, he did took 5. Definitely I missed this because it took another 5 minutes and then he decided to sacrifice a complete rook. I understand his decision. He wants to take this next, but I think it's not that easy to get the knight as well.
So it was a rough
Like
position though. What do you think was a better move than rook e6?
it just king g7, as I said. Like
Yeah,
you just defend the bishop because the bishop is hanging.
just
Anyway,
stay in
you're gonna
exchange.
lose the rook. Yeah. So and this is not that bad. Like it's black has got some serious compensation because the knight here is very very strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to remove this knight. The dark square control is also very strong. If you play a5, there's impossible that white would get before c5. And maybe just a draw. I'm not sure. Like if white could even win this because there's no breakthrough. H4, H5, you can just block, and the rooks are going to be passive unless some file gets open. And I don't see how it's going to get open. Maybe white has to sacrifice some pawn at some point. The bishop is very very bad because of the pawn formation. So I think black has very good chances even after blundering. Like he could have held this game.
Yeah, I think that's another good lesson.
Exactly.
So even after you get into a rough position, so clearly he was forked there, and losing the exchange never feels good. But as soon as you realize, okay, I'm probably losing here, or I'm close to losing, it's not time to give up yet by any means. You need to just sit there and search for, how can I make this difficult? How can I find any resource? And if you get in the habit of doing that, you will find
And
defenses.
Absolutely. And another point is it's very easy to play as a black. Like practically speaking, a5, f4, rook s6, rook b6, or f5 ideas, h5 ideas. Or in general, even if you just play c6, improve your king, and even if you sit tight, I mean, what white is gonna do? Like white has to really think long, maybe rook d3, g3, bishop g2, try to work out f4. Like it's a long way. He needs to really work out some plan. And even after that, it's not clear that after if you black plays f6, how he's gonna win this. So uh, we could have played king g7, but this is not good. Just playing rook down. Or okay, he also blundered then. But still, okay, why is not employing
So,
the rook bishop d plus 3?
so now we still got an exchange, but it's a lot more. The rooks have files to work with.
G4 takes. White agrees again. And in the end, okay, white is winning this. Again, surprise not capturing the pawn simply or attacking it. Okay, then I believe he must have improved the king. And okay, now this wins on the spot, I believe, more or less. Or rook c6, knight h5, you can at least play rook a6. And that's also a zugzwang. Like it's not like we are
Because
threatening to win a
you
pawn.
could,
It's a zugzwang.
yeah, the
You
zugzwang's
play
even
this.
better. You could think about playing bishop takes h7 there too, but might as well keep him in zugzwang. Keep the bishop pinned.
I mean, next move you're just capturing h5. You can remove king h5 because knight g7 just made scene one. So okay, live board, and yes, he did play rook c6. And I think very soon we will witness a resignation here. So well played, Jeremy. Whatever strategy he made worked out somehow.
Yeah,
So
this
if
goes to
something
show.
works
Yeah, I
out,
mean, these games aren't decided by openings.
uh, so I think Robert has lost the game. There's some digital error here with the time, I believe. And yeah, this game again. Wow, we have queens off the board. Okay, Conor has won it. Shall we just quickly check this?
Yeah, let's check it out.
So Bishop B7 was played. He played Queen H5 then, takes, and why not Rook to A8 here? Because Ren D7 and Bishop D4 is also possible, but then takes. He played Bishop C6, Bishop G5, idea D7. So Bishop D7 was played, and which allowed Rook H1 and resigns because NF6 cannot be prevented. He could have played King G8, but the problem is takes, and if you take, there's a Bishop H6, Bishop F8.
Yep. So that king safety did become an issue at the end, even though he had that glorious bishop defending throughout.
Yeah, but I was wondering why not simply Bishop F3 here? Probably because of knight G7, and he thought he needs to play this move, which is a blunder. There's a knight E6, and for this, there's a D7, which of course loses for black. But the point is, after this, he could have simply played king to G7. And now the rook is under attack, so rook D3, and simply Bishop E4 would have drawn the game.
Is there okay? And he's got the h file covered.
I mean, I'm just threatening to win this and rook D8 next. Or also possible to start with rook D8. But there's one trick here with D7. Now you're
Still need
threatening
bishop g.
Bishop G5 and
Yeah.
this. So you try to play this. And now the key move is rook D6. The idea is if you capture this Bishop G5, so you have to wait and probably still it draws because, yeah, it draws. Or maybe not.
You got a second pass here.
But how you're going to stop this is my question. Maybe rook B6. Uh, and Bishop D7, you play rook F6. But there's rook E8 coming in no time. So how exactly this is going to be win? So bishop f6, you must capture d7, and now rook b6, and it's a checkmate.
Hmm. Yeah, pawn and bishop make a nice mating net there.
Something like this could have been worked out. But for sure, I mean, he could have tried bishop f3 because that's his best chance. And and the moves are not so easy or clear for both the players, I believe. But still, he could have tried this because this is something he had the best chance. And but okay, bishop d7 will not draw the game. Rook d7, king g6. This is winning. And the key move is, of course, this rook d6. Would have been interesting. But okay, in the end, it was Zaga's game. Well, sorry, it was Connor's game, who played fast and bold
Yeah,
throughout the game to
these
win
guys
this.
these guys are good matchup. They're back and forth. So I know Dane's won a couple times, Connor's won a couple times. So yeah, it's always good to see them play, and we can see why they produce some pretty exciting games.
And let's go here because ED has only 2 minutes on the clock, and he has managed to trap his queen.
So two
So now it's
pieces.
going to be queen versus rook,
Hmm,
and that's
that's
why
funny.
Nathan is thinking now. And as I said, this once rook g2 comes, White is very soon going to realize that how bad his position. At f5 came in. He took with the h1 even now because he's out of danger. And took. Wait, what?
Just still seems like why not take it the f pawn? Seems like you're
Yeah.
per our discussion earlier. It just seems like you're
And the
allowing
difference you
counterplay.
found. Rook d1 and then bishop g4, bishop h5. Crazy.
So
I like
he
it.
sacked a rook to trap that queen. Wow, that's creative.
Impressive. Impressive. And now almost every move wins. Every move, literally.
Yeah, that's I like that. It's a sack a full rook to entomb your queen. Sorry, buddy.
I thought Conor versus Zager was a great game, but Nathan has his say here.
Okay, go back to rook d1 though. Was that just needlessly fancy, or
It was just too beautiful.
was that actually needed?
It was needed. It was needed. Because there's a checkmate. I said it's not a good idea to take with the H pawn.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, he does the same thing. He just takes with the F
Okay,
pawn. He
so
doesn't. He
yeah,
doesn't need to be fancy here.
yeah,
He's just
exactly.
winning.
Yeah, okay. So so he so he's being fancy, but it's because he saddled himself with he basically made a mistake playing h takes that gave Eddie this chance that then made him find this only move that's fantastic.
Yeah, he maybe he found here. He's thought for around 9 minutes here
But
and found.
if he just played f takes earlier, then he wouldn't have needed to come up with this brilliancy. So
Yeah, yeah,
I guess
just
we're
yeah,
privileged that he decided to play on the edge with h takes because then we get to see this cool
just to strike
queen
with the
trap.
brilliancy.
So all things happen for a reason.
Yeah, and okay, now I think he's again deciding which how to strike again, just to play b5 and make fun of White. But he has got all the time in this game to do whatever he wants. The queen is on long leave. The king is
Yeah,
alone.
and this is
And
why expert level chess is kind of fun because they're good enough to find some cool, interesting ideas, but then they're also bad enough to blunder the ideas to each other instead of you get up to your level, everyone's seeing everything, so you don't get to see the cool ideas quite as often because both sides saw it and they just don't allow it. But
And here it's also going to be black's win. Okay, let's just I think first complete the games which got finished and which we didn't look at.
yes,
Okay.
okay, we got Sawyer against Steven.
Yes. Which was started with English opening with some Slav flavor to it
Yeah, probably just
and
trying to
exchange Slav with.
transpose to his D4 openings. That's it's always a good way to handle C4. That's how I also
Mhm.
like to handle it.
Yeah, it's one of the most solid lines. Play like this. And okay, we had a simple game, my natural moves, development of pieces, and
Some draws.
yeah, but black is better because the bishop is bad and the bishop is open. Like here, when he played e3, it made some concessions. He could have played bishop f4 or bishop g5 or something like g3, bishop g2, bishop f4. So bishop needs to be out. If you play e3, then it's possible. It's an opening, but it gives black more flexibility and easy game. So okay, try to do something there. He got a pawn out there, but only to get in trouble, I believe, because if bishop moves knight c4, knight b2, and a3 would hang, resulting into losing an exchange. Or he also missed rook b8, I believe, which was even stronger, but knight
Yeah.
b5 is there. So okay, knight b2 and just take an exchange, I believe, is simple win.
If knight b5 wasn't there, yeah, full piece definitely better than just an exchange.
Yeah,
Feels like you know,
eventually got on the b5 square itself.
I I feel like in general, it's just a general. Of course, it depends on the position, but you can be a lot. You can give away a pawn. You can give away an exchange, and both of those, a lot of times, you can still win the game after you've given them if you get enough activity. But a full piece, that's a lot. You know,
That's a lot. Absolutely correct. Absolutely. You could survive with giving up a pawn, maybe exchange also at times, but it's very rare you survive after losing a complete piece. You just lost it. So I think it was a good game from Steven. And I think the mistake from Soar's side was playing e3. Maybe next time he could play bishop f4, e3, and everything else was good enough. But I think it was only the activity of the bishop which mattered, and because the bishop was not doing anything throughout the game, he lost it. Or maybe he did something here on his own which created problems for him. And now we could see the pieces are not doing much, and that's why he ended up playing b5, going into this mess.
yeah. A few years ago when I was developing my opening repertoire, I asked my coach about the Kale, and he didn't even tell me it was called the Kale. He just said, "Oh, that's just a bad version of or that's a bad version of London." So,
Exactly.
it's just. I mean, we all know it's an opening. It's named Kale, right? But there's just no reason to throw your e3 pawn in front of your bishop.
It's just bad.
It's just like why? It's just you got the
Why?
white
Why?
pieces. You know, you're supposed to maximize your piece activity, not just huddle up like a turtle, especially when you're playing the white pieces. Let black huddle up like a turtle. You know.
And if you play e3, then okay, you should try to play some bishop d2 and quick b4 lines. That's the only sense I could see from this move. Like, but
Well,
that is also you do when like you don't have option. Like sometimes as a black you have to do that. But if you play e3 as white, then something is wrong with you.
yeah, sometimes they go for b3, bishop b2, but and hey,
That is also okay, I believe. But e3 is just too much.
it's still it still ends up being zeros a lot of times, so it's not like you're losing, but it's just very unambitious.
Exactly. That's the correct word.
White chess as white is very easy. You can do kind of whatever you want. You can play exchange exchange King's Indian. You can do whatever you want everywhere, and you'll probably have zeros. But that's not really the goal with white. You know, you got to use your whites to actually play for wins.
Mhm. Now let's witness this game between Scott versus Thomas. It was an Sicilian game with Alap in touch.
Okay. I'm already. Oh, now it's some Raslimo.
Yeah, so we had every move. Okay, so open Sicilian to Alapen, and then a little bit of Rosolimo. So Scott is enjoying a little bit of everything. And okay, so I don't know, like if you play Queen B6 or Queen G7, you want to capture with the Queen usually, but then he captures with the pawn. So that surprises me a bit. And now look at the structure. The bishops are just done. Even H4, H5 is a good idea in such positions. Like there's just no good way to stop it. Like you play N6, there's a E5 already, if H5 coming in. And if you play H5, then the G5 becomes quick.
We've got
All right.
John in the
Yeah.
chats. Hey, hello to John. John also commentates on the channel sometimes.
Hmm.
He's got a question about Nathan's game, but we'll come back to that after we finish looking at Scott versus Thomas.
Yeah. And what I was saying, Black managed to get a good position afterwards as he got E5 on this. And this is a good setup to get in general the pawn formation. You
Yeah,
can play a file edger, K1 King H8, very systematic approach. But imagine if you could have played F5 directly, there was no 22 and F4 time for to get this. So maybe F5 directly was much better version as you don't really want to exchange the bishops. But okay, it's not a big deal even if we exchange those bishops.
yeah.
You just got to get the queen again.
I actually kind of like this structure a lot in Raslimo. If I ever can get this with C6, C5, D6, E5, and to my
Mhm.
knowledge, also you can even it's even acceptable to have instead of B takes C6, you can also have F takes E6. So you can have E6, E5, D6, C5, and yeah, sometimes they have knight G5 and E6 is a little soft, but that also is kind of acceptable. So
Yeah,
those are the two. They kind of remind me of like they look like a yeah. I don't know. They're kind of reverse of each other almost to me. But
and 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 this is one of the ideas where White could just try to break the black pawn structure, and that's why it's only hope. He did do that, but after knight G8, maybe he got scared of bishop coming to G4, and that will lose the H4 pawn. But he needed to do this. Like there's just no option now. Like it's a good or bad. He like bishop G4, maybe knight H2, and maybe like this he could have done this and damage the pawn structure and trying to play to trying to win this pawn somehow. Or first he can also win to F3 and trying to win those pawns. But instead he went defensive. He went king H2, and that allowed this. And he simply blundered queen H4. I mean, I don't know what did he miss exactly, but this is just game over to me. And he decided to resign here as he was losing pawns one by one. Maybe he could have continued with rook H1. It's maybe little bit early to resign.
yeah, and one more.
I know it's even he can take like this and go rook F4, but we're just down 2 pawns. We can continue the game, I believe.
Yeah, and one question for you with the structure is black. It seems like black almost never wants to play D5, right? Because that would just make it makes C5 just extremely weak. I'm
Exactly.
not never not never say never, but unless you're calculating some forcing tactics, like it's just a huge, that D6 pawn is really holding your position together.
Yeah, you can play D5 if you plan it work out well, like 27 to D8 and D5 is possible someday. But in general, the best idea is to somehow try to get this.
So use the F file, use the B file. Those are enough sources of counterplay. You don't need to make additional breaks.
Yeah, you just need to get the knight to F4 in King's Indian, and The job is half done.
Okay,
So
and one more question here.
that's
So if White could pull their pawn back to a2, would they be really happy to do that or not?
yes, 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 definitely. A2 is good, but the problem is like the H4 move was unnecessary, and that created all the chaos. Like he could have just simply played the same A3 rook B1 B4 whatever. Oops, sorry, A3 rook B1 and B4 ideas, or some counterplay with knight A4, and he needs to break the pawn structure because black is too good. So
And
and
let's say and let's also just so since Black's kind of gotten their breaks in, what if White just stayed super passive and how would Black really develop all their play? If
honestly speaking, the mistake was done here. So like the C4 was very good. After G6, okay, you can just simply play E5 or just go H4, H5. There's no need to allow this D6 and E5 ideas. So as I said, you can just go H4, H5 ideas, or simply go E5 and just get the knight to E4 like this. And okay, continue D3, queen E2, bishop F4 like ideas, and it's like 1-0 positionally speaking.
yeah, it kind of
It's very bad positionally for bad black.
it reminds me like a reverse Nimzo. It feels like
So
White's got the
this is
Nimzo
how white could
structure.
have.
Must
Mhm.
we
A
got
much
one.
better version of, in fact, because this looks terrible. And the bishop is also now here. So, like so many weaknesses for black.
Well, we got a comment from Daryl in the chat. Thank you for the commentary. He'll be joining for the Thursday fun next month. Okay, and we might have a new tournament competitor, so we'll be welcoming Daryl. Uh, and thank you for tuning into the channel. Yeah, we appreciate all the viewers, everyone who's watching currently, and everyone who watches the replay. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you, guys. We have, yeah, I read the comment of John and Daryl.
Yeah, so why don't we jump to John's question? He's saying in the Nathan game, he thought he had knight e6, knight g7, knight f5. I'm not sure exactly where.
Yeah, so at some point he wanted to win a queen, I believe, with the 96, 97 knight f5 idea.
Got it. Yep.
So rook b1, maybe here, this is where, here, I guess, he wanted to play 96. Quite possible, but this allows this f5 break, I believe. Or wherever you will play 96, there will be f5. You cannot capture, of course, because this. So knight here, and maybe it still works because just in time to defend everything.
What if he? What if
If you
f?
capture
What if
like
fg6?
this,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
still do
guess.
the same thing. But this allows rook b6, and now it is not possible anymore.
So I
Maybe with
was.
pawn on b5 it's possible, but with rook on b1 it's not. So this is the only counterplay for white. Otherwise, black is just winning completely.
Yes,
But as I
especially when.
said, like
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. So yeah, he can play b5, queen e6, queen f5, any move, and it's winning. So, but what did he play? He played b5. Okay, f5, queen f5, and okay, just grab all the pawns. So the idea is maybe just to survive or with this.
Yeah, so once they've got a queen trapped on h6, you want to just zone on any possible resources they could have because you pretty much got the game in the bag. So just got to make sure. Okay, how could they possibly get some counterplay here? Maybe f5. And so
Mhm.
zone on that, prevent it. But
Uh, y- yeah, as well as I said, like it could have been simpler just to capture those pawns or get this. But okay, he played b5. Okay, I think it's still not a big deal. Just capture, and now we can just capture this and also play c3 because it's not really a threat. Like he can also just, for instance, just do this and play bishop f3 and it's a mate. Like there's just no defense here.
I
The king
feel
cannot escape from dark squares, so as the light. And okay, you have to capture the queen, exchange queens, which means it's as good as resigning the game. So the simplest way is just to capture the a3 pawn and threaten this.
yeah, I think
And okay, there's nothing much you can do.
your f takes insight from earlier. I think was definitely the biggest learning point from this game though, because and it makes sense. people want to play h takes because they have that rule. They have that beginner rule.
Yeah.
You capture towards the center, right? You control more center that way. But if you're defending an attack, h takes is opening the h file and also preventing you from defending
Mm-hmm.
along the seventh rank. Um, which, if you play f
And also,
takes, yeah, then you got pieces that can interact with h7 now. So,
also for E6, you can capture and check. You can go back. Like there's no need to do any kind of allowing these things. Okay, still you have got some checks, and you'll probably still win it, but you can just take with knight as you have got knight of it back. And there is no stalemate, I believe, because after rook f8, the queen has to go back. Otherwise, it could have been a good stalemate because the king is not really maybe.
steel matrix. Those
Yeah,
well, we saw one last week actually. Yeah,
yeah.
we do have time for that for a moment. So why don't I mean we're still gonna catch up with the rest of the games. But why don't you just quickly jump to round three and look at
It was by
it
this one,
was
right? Mine's right.
sorry, it was round two. My fault.
Okay.
Yep, that's the game.
Uh,
Yeah, but back up earlier when the queens are still on because
So both player wants to make queens, and I think white is pretty fast, faster
oh yeah,
here.
okay, yep.
King a3 doesn't work. How does this work? This also doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
Just make a queen.
So white was actually winning here for a bit.
He's just winning, yeah.
But then
And then what
but
happened? Look at
yeah, there was some more craziness though. Because he allowed black
I
to
could
move the
have
queen.
simply played rook b5 or rook
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Rook. I think rook c5 was really the best move there.
He allows him to make a queen, and now simply
Yeah.
queen d2, yeah.
Yep. So queen d2 was the nice flourish. But yeah,
King
no.
f3, queen takes f5. And this is now close to a draw. But okay, now even black can win this. But okay, this is a perpetual, so
Yeah.
lucky. I mean, you need to be very lucky to survive with down a queen against a 2000, I mean, almost 1900 player, or miles, let's say
Yeah,
2000
yeah.
player.
Miles was playing on increment, but
And okay, something like
is
rook
what it is.
b3, rook
Miles
b5,
played
rook
some crazy
c4,
games too. Uh,
and on the spot.
yeah, Miles is actually overpowering a lot of people, and then just not having quite enough time at the very end to just find his knockouts. Um, I think
Yeah.
that's happened in a few games to him, and he's won a few tournaments as well. So he's clearly showing a high level. Just needs maybe a little bit better time management to make sure he's got the time to calculate those wins when he has them at the end of games.
Yeah, if you get slightly faster and better at end games, your suddenly result starts getting so much better.
But
No doubt
anyways, we
about
can
that.
jump back to
So,
the current rounds. We only
yeah,
figured I'd show
all
you.
right. It was a nice escape to have. Uh, so okay, we saw the corner game. We okay here. I believe okay. He just went bishop g4 directly, allowing queen to get some oxygen.
I'm surprised by that. Okay, but he must calculate some mating ideas.
Yeah, it's winning for black. So okay, as Hoover also played at g6, maybe he's having something else here to show us off. Let's see what it is going to be. Until this, let's just have a look at the games which finished. So we left this game around here after this knight d8 point where we said this nf4 is coming and it's game over. So he took on e6, sacrifice on exchange. And okay, eventually it's losing them. He lost the knight as well. And a checkmate to end the game.
Ah, nice finish.
So here, okay, we saw what Robert did to himself.
So Ronan's having a nice tournament this month, and looks like he's on his way to expert himself.
Yeah, rest of the games, I think we saw this Jeremy played a good game. He went at the end, and this one as well. Nice game from Black side. Simple slow defense, hitting tactical shots at the right moment, and even this one. So let's jump to the only live game, which is this. And he did not play in improve his queen. Now simply queen a3 wins on the spot.
Yeah, nice game by Nathan.
Yeah. What do you think? How will finish?
Okay,
He'll just
he
capture
played.
on a3 or
Yeah,
will
he just. I
find
just
something?
saw him play Queen takes a3 on the video feed.
He did play.
Yeah, these guys are still live on camera here.
Mhm. So now I believe king c2 is the only move to keep the game going. Otherwise, you get checkmated. So king c2, probably a check is also fine. This is coming next. You can give a check again. Check again. Okay, it's not checkmating yet. But also simply you can give a check and okay, let me just show this and try to push a pawn c3, c2, and c1. Like no need to work hard or calculate even. Think there's some digit error. It's showing 0, 0.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
refresh.
that's that's usual. That's a usual DG error when they get down to increment.
Or maybe he has resigned. You never know.
Yeah, I'd say no. Eddie, come on. Eddie barely, almost never flags. Almost he
Mhm.
plays pretty well in increment. If Nathan gets down to no time, sometimes Nathan will flag. But Nathan's got some time to think here. And I know no one's flagged. I'm watching the video feed. They're still making moves.
Mhm. So what
Oh
will be the
no,
standings after this
actually
round?
they're analyzing, so the game must have ended.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So what's the standing after this round? Let me
Yeah,
give a quick idea.
let me check here quick. Um, I don't have a view set up to show the viewers, but
But we can just maybe give a shout out.
yes. Oh, so sorry about I'm messing up the video feed.
That's
Okay,
okay.
just a moment. Okay, but going into this round, check out the standings, Premier at least. And everyone can check these out, by the way, by going to the Chess Castle website. And then you go to Thursday Nighter News, and there's links for standings and pairings.
Mhm.
And so standings going into this round, Connor was in first with 2.5, so Connor's clearly now with 3.5.
Yes.
Dane and Nathan has 2, so and they have not.
So Nathan at number second place
Yeah,
because he won today.
yeah, but Nathan and Connor have already played. Connor beat Nathan last week,
Okay.
so they're not going to be paired in the fifth round. So
Okay.
and yeah, and Eddie. So yeah, so Connor looks like he's running away with it because Nathan's the only one who can really catch up to him, and they're
Mhm.
not even paired. So Nathan doesn't even really have a chance to beat Connor directly. So Connor's going to have 2.5 or 3.5 out of
Yeah, no.
4, and Nathan's going to have 3 out of 4 in second
Zero
place.
four.
But then they're not going to be paired against each other. So Connor can kind of. It's not a sure thing, but
Champion for the first, very first champion of the 2025.
Yep, and Miles took, and this was a strong tournament as far as prospects because Miles was playing. Miles took a bye today, so it looks like Miles. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a bye next week too, just because he's not in it anymore. And but maybe he'll play. But anyways, we basically have had most of the winners were here. So Connor has won tournament, won Thursday nighters. Dane's won Thursday nighters. Nathan's won Thursday nighters. Miles has won Thursday
That's great.
nighters. Um,
We have different
and
winners.
even Eddie now and then, but Eddie not as quite as much as the rest of the crowd here. But yeah, I'd say those four are really, and Connor a little bit outsized, winning more often than the rest. But he definitely had his work cut out for him because the best competitors that come to Thursdays were pretty much all here. Minnesota we do have stronger players. They mostly just play weekend tournaments,
Yeah.
and some of
It
these
simply
players
shows
also.
like how like strong field or the bunch of players we have got. Like as every week we have got like new winners. So it's really they are fighting and there's a healthy competition between them, whether it's Connor, Nathan, or Miles.
Yeah, and these guys are definitely competitive at the weekend tournaments too. So, which makes sense because a lot of people play just weekend tournaments, and I guess a lot of these players will probably play weekend tournaments plus they're playing their weekly game. And then there's players like Eddie, Everyday Eddie, who really plays almost every tournament, has over 3,100 rated games.
Uh,
So,
that's quite a lot.
yeah, but it looks like we might be done early today, huh? Do we have anything left?
No, I think we have so done with the recap, I believe.
Perfect. All right. Well, I guess we'll just call it here and we'll see everyone here. Let me actually do a quick plug for Chess Goals and then we'll call it. So, we do have a sponsor on the channel, chessgoals.com, owned by National Master Matt Jensen, local to our area. And he's got simple opening courses for non-grandmasters, learn complete repertoires in under 100 lines. So these are courses kind of similar to Chessable, but he just provides you the PGNs and provides you videos, and you have access to a Discord where he answers your questions. I own the Catalan course myself, even though I'm an E4 player. Just at least wanted to check out that content. Was a little ambitious when I bought that and decided to stick with E4, but at the same time, it is good for that purpose. If you want to mix anything in, you just want to try out something new. It doesn't. You don't necessarily need to overhaul your whole rep. Just play one of these non-grandmaster mini reps from Matt. So if you do check those out on chessgoals.com, make sure you use code CASTLE to save 30% on your purchase. And yeah, thank you guys very much. We're going to call it here, and we'll see you same time next week. So thank you very much.